Hello, parents and grandparents. I am so excited to be coming to you today to talk about one of my favorite things to do, and that is to make summer learning and summer reading more fun. Now, I know I've been talking to a lot of parents and grandparents this summer, and I think the running theme I'm seeing is that it was a really stressful year for a lot of people. And so when I've asked them, hey, what are your academic goals for your child this summer? I've heard none. We just want to relax. And I totally get that. As a mom and a teacher, we just finished school February, I'm sorry, not February, May 23rd. And I'm tired, and it's taken me a little bit of time to get my mommy mojo back. We are definitely doing some summer learning and summer reading over here. My kids have iPads, and I'm right there with you. It can be so hard to get them off their iPads and to limit that time. And so, one of the things that my husband and I decided together is our kids are going to do some homework. So, I got a couple of books, I found a couple of books, and we're working through those together. And I tell you, the best times of doing that are when I'm sitting at the dining room table with my kids and helping them. Sometimes I'm learning right along with them. I'm looking at the directions, and I'm like, hey, this is how we do it. And so if you're really up for nothing other than just to read this summer or to do storytelling or something like this, I got you. I'm here for it. And so let's get started. I've got some tips and tricks and some ideas to make learning more fun, to make reading more fun this summer. So I'm going to share my screen. There we go. And I hope I've got something going on, something weird with my computer, but I definitely, let's get my slideshow going first. Um, all right, there we go. But I definitely want to be here with you while I do this video. So let's go to show video panel. There we go. I'm just gonna leave that there, and hopefully it will. Let's see. I know it comes up in the corner. So let's hope that stayed there. All right. So how can you make reading fun, especially in the summer months? So I've got these little bookshelves that just fit on the wall if you're not wanting to get a whole bookcase. I love these, and they can go dual purpose, and you can use them later for something else. Um, Making summer reading fun. What are some ways to help your child fall in love with reading? Now, I know over the years that I've been a reading tutor, I've heard parents say it's kind of the number one thing when they come to me. They're like, I just want my kid to love reading. Right now, they don't love reading, for whatever reason. If they have dyslexia, if they're behind, if they weren't taught phonics in school. And so reading just seems like this big guessing game, and they don't know what the magic key is. They're not loving reading. And I know from the training I've done as a teacher that if kids don't love reading, they're not going to practice reading. And then they're not going to get better, and they're going to fall further and further behind. They're going to be more frustrated. And now they really don't love reading. So what can we do about that? I tell you, my number one thing as a reading teacher is let's get the right books into kids' hands. If you don't know your child's real independent reading level, that is a game changer to find that out. So I probably bring that up in every video I do, because just like doctors and nurses will say, like, what's the best thing you can do to improve your health? Drink more water. It's always the answer. Drink more water is good for your skin. Drink more water is good for everything. As a reading teacher, getting the right level of books into your kids' hands is like my number one. If there could be a magic pill, that would be it. So I'll tell you that right there. If you find this content helpful, I would love for you to do all the things. Let me know that you like it, so that I know I can produce more like it. Give me, share with me in the comments what you like about it. And then that coffee cup is there just, in real life as you're talking to other parents. If you're a teacher and you're like, oh my gosh, who is this crazy lady who's making all these videos for parents to help their kids with reading? I love it. So talk about it. Let people know that it's out here. My kind of 5 years future dream plan is to teach a lot of kids how to become better readers, regardless of their financial situation. That's what I would love to do, like get a 501(c)(3) program in place, and get some teachers who also have the same passion that I do, and help kids one-on-one or in small groups, to get the right books in their hands, and to help them to become better readers. If you would like a copy of my show notes today, give me the word reading. I'd love to share with you any other ideas. If I mention something and you're like, oh, I want to know more about that, let me know. Because again, I want to base my content and what I'm putting out there based on what you could really use and what you're thinking about and wondering about. If you could have a teacher in your back pocket, like I'm that teacher, I would love to share with you. So give me the word reading, and I'd love to talk with you and further the conversation. If we haven't met before, my name's Sharon Frazier-Verpooten. I help elementary students to raise their reading levels a full year with just 12 hours of instruction. And there's my information if you want to get in contact with me. That is really kind of my mojo. That's my thing that I love to do, is to help students, whether they're gifted and they're not getting the right education in the classroom. I have my GATE certification from California. I love to do that. I love to help struggling readers. My own son has dyslexia, dysgraphia, and dyscalculia. And so we're going through that journey. That's kind of why I started all of this, is because I suspected that he had this when he was in kindergarten, and now we have the diagnosis, and I feel empowered. I feel like I've gone and learned a lot, and taught a lot of kids, and I feel like I have what I need to help him to become a better reader. And parents, grandparents, I want that for you too. All right, so do you want your child to love reading? Today's video, I'm going to be talking about some fun reading activities, benefits of summer reading, success stories, creative reading challenges, and some book recommendations. So let's get started. My first recommendation to you is, just get your kids reading. Let's do some fun, different things this summer that aren't like what we did in the school year, so they can just change it up and make it different. I love reading picture books. I just think there's so much value. There's so many things we can teach kids and talk with kids. How fun would it be if you are a parent and you have more than one child? How fun would it be to find a picture book that your preschooler would love, and to share that, to have your fifth grader share that with little brother or sister, and talk about some of the themes and lessons that can be learned through that book. All right, so number one, how about creating a cozy little reading nook? Could you transform an area of your home this summer, since your kids are going to be home more, into just a place where they can love sitting and reading, maybe drawing as well? So I've tried to find pictures of some things that are pretty easy to do. I have a reading nook. It also doubles as my calming space in my classroom, where I just took, we got a refresh a couple years ago at our school. So our furniture's gray. Everything's just really kind of calm and neutral, which I love because I can plan things like around it. And my theme right now is like that old wood farmhouse. So I just have those little gray couches that came with my room. I put them in the corner. I put a little bookcase there with books from different levels, and I have some things on top that will that are fun for the kids to involve themselves in. So some things that you can do at home that I can't necessarily do at school, because like we share the space and there's the germs can happen. But I love the idea of like getting this little carpet together and putting pillows in there. And again, look at these little bookshelves that can be doubled as something else if you want to turn this space into something else. But I kind of have a feeling that you might fall in love with your reading nook and keep it for a while. You can just put stuffies there. The one thing I think is missing from this little corner is some light. And I know for my own children, my husband and I decided that we were going to push the kids' bedtime up a little bit earlier. They were having trouble waking up for school in the morning. And so we said, hey, let's have them go to bed. Let's have them go in their room at 8:30, turn off all screens, and have them read for 30 minutes before they go to bed. Well, they have bunk beds. And so how are we going to do that? I got these little book lights on Amazon for like $15 a piece, maybe $10 a piece. I don't remember. But they're, they're chargeable with a little mini USB cable. And then they can just clip it to their book or they can clip it to a part of their bed and they can turn off all the other lights and read for a little bit. And then right before they're ready to go to sleep, they just, turn that light off, put their book aside and go to bed. One thing I want to add to their beds to make it a little bit more cozy and reading friendly is one of these little shelves that they could put their book and their light on and that could just always be up and kind of keep that area neat. So I definitely think like maybe a push light or something like that could be added to this little space. Look how cute that little like circus top or merry-go-round top is. It just looks so fun with those primary colors. I found a couple more pictures that I just wanted to share with you, and I just really liked the simplicity of it, like, and that it literally is just the little corner of a room that you could change. And so this one just has a little carpet and some pillows and a bean bag right in the corner. There's a cute little reading chair that could be there or not. But I loved this idea of, just maybe making a copy of a book cover, blowing it up. My favorite place to go is like Office Max, Office Depot, because you can send them a digital copy of something and you could say, hey, print this in color and maybe even laminate it. And, they can make it whatever size you want to. And then look how cute. They just hung those onto little pants hangers to make them kind of fun and whimsical. And it's a real low area of the house with like a cute little window there. So I loved that one. And this one is simple as well with like a little tiny couch and some baskets with stuffies. And again, those little shelves, those little wall shelves that are placed low so that kids can get books. And then look at the little tiny bookshelf. What I love about these little nooks is that there's not a giant bookshelf with like the family's whole, collection of books that for everybody. I think that might be overwhelming for a child. So just a little bookshelf. Maybe in the baskets, I could see like, I don't know, little fidgets, little sand timers and things, little like the lava or the glitter jars, things to just kind of make that a calming little area. I love that space. And then I had to talk about this tree because when my kids were in preschool, I really wanted a chicka chicka boom boom tree in my living room. I was all about kind of like, I was still teaching full time in the classroom, but I wanted summer to be like my homeschool time with my friends, for me, with my friends, with my kids, for me to teach them all of the things that I thought was important. So I read about this and I decided to do it. So I went on Amazon. I got, if you don't know Chicka Chicka Boom Boom, it's Chicka Chicka Boom Boom. Will there be enough room? And the alphabet, they take all the alphabet, they letters, they put them on the tree, and then there's so many that they fall down and get all crowded. But it's a palm tree. And so I went on to Amazon. I bought a bulletin board set of a palm tree, and I got those little sticky letters that you can get at the teacher store, or you can order them on Amazon. And I loved them because they were removable. And so like what my plan was, whatever letter we were learning about, I stuck that letter on the tree and we got more and more letters going up the tree. And it was just really fun. It was removable. We took it down over time when I was done teaching the alphabet, but how cool would this be? And it could definitely be temporary, rolling up bags to make this tree. If you look closer, that's all they are. It's just like either brown packing paper, you could buy it, or you could get some brown shopping bags at the grocery store, and roll them up and then make little leaves out of construction paper. This is an owl theme. This is obviously a classroom. But when I look at it, I think of like putting little pillows down here and then maybe having some fun with learning about what animals are in trees and what plants and leaves are in trees. And maybe instead of like buying owls from like a teacher store, actually having your kids draw, like learn about birds, and then draw and color the birds to put in the tree and either tape or staple them up on that tree. I know my students in school this year learned how to take their iPads and find a picture and then put, just paper over that and then trace, and then that became their own drawing. And what fun for those kids to realize that they were artists and that they can do that. And I just think this would be something really fun to add. It doesn't have to be giant. Like this whole look who's reading, this seems to me like it's maybe a TV that was placed in the room that the teacher doesn't need anymore. And so she put this over it to cover it. Or it's, I know that I've been in classrooms where like it was an old science room and there was like an eye wash or something that like they didn't take down. And so that could be what that is. I'm not sure. You don't have to have that in your little corner in your reading nook for yourself. And I know that these are little benches, but how cute too. Like you could just do little short bookshelves and then put little cushions on top of it for the kids to have something to sit on. Or you could just imagine this being the floor and again, putting pillows and things like all around to make it cozy. A couple more. I love this idea. Again, a little tiny bookshelf in somebody's living room, and they've turned a little like knickknack shelf to be a holder of books. I love this one. This is like little alphabet blocks there too. Some bean bags and an extra little carpet. And then, they sell these for kids' rooms. And, I've seen it especially in a baby room where it's like this little canopy. But I see curtains and different things you can do. You could put like a little cute tent there with little lights. There's just really so many things that you could do with making kids love like little cozy spaces. And I have a feeling if you have a cat, they're going to love that spot too. I loved this little corner because it's so clearly a living room. I actually think I have this light in my own living room. But again, little shelves that could turn into something else later where you're putting books on it, like a few books that you're going to choose that are great books for your kids to just pull up and read. And then I don't know if you can see this with my picture. I tried recording this earlier and there's something weird that happens with like this black square, but this says read. And then these are like little wooden letters that you can get at like Hobby Lobby and Michael's to make it more of a reading corner. Another thing I love about this, I can see Good Night Moon there. So book covers that are put into little frames. How cute is that to just dedicate that to a reading space and that you enjoy being in too. That's part of it. So my next tip is have family reading time. So go in the reading nook with your kids, make yourself a comfy chair that is comfortable for you and find a book that you can read together. Read aloud to kids. These were my own kids when they were 7 and we got together with a photographer and took these pictures, but it was really important to have like outside sitting on a park bench reading together. My favorite memories of growing up and learning to read as a child were reading with my mom on her lap, reading with my grandmother, reading with my 2 older sisters. I have 3 older sisters. One is 1 year older than I am. And then one is 8 years older and one is 10 years older. And both of them were really influential in teaching me how to read because they just sat next to me and we read together. We read Hop on Pop. We read, books like Mouse Tales. We read Charlotte's Web. There it is. Like Put Me in the Zoo. We read those things together. And it was actually my older sister who taught me how to read. She read Hop on Pop to me. And I'm sure that I memorized parts of it, but I also know, having studied that book as a reading teacher, that book is like a masterclass in phonics. If you ever pick up Hop on Pop, like you'll see there's a whole list of words that are all in the same family. So it'll say hop, pop, mop, bop, and then there'll be a sentence with op words. And so I think that as my sister was reading that to me, she was pointing out, I was about 4, but she was pointing out those word families, and she helped me sound out the words. We went op, pop, right? And then I was reading. And so make reading a social time for your kids. That's, it's no fun to be told to go in your room and read by yourself. It's much more fun to have that be and a time of enjoyment. My friend who I used to teach with in Tustin, when I posted this on Facebook, he said, hey, get 2 copies of the book. so that you can both read it together. Maybe you can sit next to each other and read it, or you can do a little combination. I know with my tutoring students, we do I read, you read. And so even with my student who's going into 7th grade, we read together still, and I read a page and he reads a page. And there are benefits to that. Number one, you're modeling good fluency, good expression of how like your voice goes up and down, and how you pause for periods, how your voice might go up for a question. All of those things need to be modeled. That's the best way to teach fluency and expression, is to show that to them. The other advantage is that if you're reading the book together, words are going to come up that your child has never seen before. And if you have a chance to read it before they do, they'll hear how it goes, right? And then they can put those phonics skills together and be like, oh, veteran, that's how we say that. Look at those little patterns. Now I understand. And so that's helpful. And then vocabulary words, being able to introduce vocabulary words by you reading it first and then going, oh my gosh, that's probably a new word. Do you know what that word means? And they say no, and go, oh, just let them know what it means. You don't have to pause reading and go get out a dictionary. Just say like, oh, you know, apothecary. I don't know why that came up in one of the books I was reading. Apothecary, that is like an old pharmacy. You know how we go to CVS and there's that little corner where we get our medicine when we're sick? That's an apothecary. Just talk about it. There's so much you can do with that. And so I love that. Make it a family affair. That's something you do together. Read outdoors. That's just so neat. If you live in an area where it's not terribly hot, or you can go out earlier in the morning before it gets hot, or in the evening before the sun goes down when it cools off. Just using that time, soak up the sunshine, get some fresh air, bring a blanket with you and throw that down, bring some snacks. And, even if you went to the park and said, okay, we're going to read this book together for 10 minutes and then you can go play. Go to the splash pad, but take some time to read a little bit before or after. Hey, we're done playing in the splash pad. We're all wet. We don't want to get in the car soaking wet. So let's go grab our towels. And I brought this book and let's read a little bit in, the warm sunshine before we go home. I think that's just another way to just really make reading fun and make it something different than you do during the school year when kids have reading for homework. What are the benefits of summer reading? I talk to a lot of parents who they just really want their kids to relax. It's been a stressful year. Maybe the child was stressed. But I know there are so many benefits of keeping the learning going. And so number one, a lot of teachers have been talking about this for years. And I put a picture of a slide in there, but the summer slide is a real thing. Now that looks like a really fun water slide to go down. It looks like a water park with lots of fun things in it. But if you can imagine this slide being the learning loss that can happen over the summer, it is real. And I have read recently that that children can lose as much as 3 months of their learning. So if you think about like we ended school May 23rd. And so if you think of everything your child learned in May, April, March, if they don't do any learning over the summer, their learning when they go back to school in August or September can go all the way back to February. What were they doing? What were they learning in February? They lose all of that. Now, I'm not sure how that happens, but I do know, your brain is a muscle, and so it can go into atrophy. If your kids are watching TV and they're being passive and they're just kind of taking it in, soaking it in and being idle, all of those things that they just learned at the end of the year, those good habits, they kind of backslide a little bit. And so here are just some ideas of how to work learning into your summer. Are you going somewhere on vacation? Could you include a trip to a museum where you walk together and look at things and learn about the history of where you are? Could you do a drive through an important place or area of our country's history? I know a couple of years ago, we packed up our kids. I packed them up into our Suburban and we drove up to Montana, and we spent our summer in Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, and Utah. And it was so great. My kids still talk about the summer that we lived in Montana, and we worked in a trip to Yellowstone on that trip. And I'm a teacher, so I love learning. And I was in a new area, a place that I hadn't been yet. And so we went to all the museums. We went to the Western Museum, learned all about William F. Cody, Buffalo Bill. We took a stop at the Buffalo Bill Dam on our way from Cody into Yellowstone. We got a book about it. And then one of the things that I did was I found on my phone an app called Travel Stories. And I use it now everywhere we go. And as we drive through a city, it's like it's GPS tripped. And so when we were driving through Yellowstone, we learned all about the history of that place. And we actually stopped at a couple of really neat places. Buffalo Bill had a cabin that he frequented and people went to in the 1800s. It was like a little hotel that people went to, and then there was a restaurant, and we made a stop there. I would have never known it was there. And there was a docent in there who was dressed like Buffalo Bill, and he talked to us. And I got a speaker that would make it, I have my car is kind of old school, so you could just like use your Bluetooth and plug it into your car. But the guy talked to us about the history and all of the different animals that we were on the lookout for. And it was just such a neat thing. Like we were doing it anyway. I wanted to see Yellowstone. We were stopping, but we listened to all this history. And so just knowing that everywhere you go, there's learning. If you're going to go to Disney World, think about, could you talk to your kids about the history of Disney? What it used to be like, why it's there, anything. When you're talking, you're modeling speaking in complete sentences with your child. You're improving their speech. So there's just so many things that you can do over the summer that aren't like sitting at the kitchen table, doing writing and math, which, we are doing with our kids for a little bit of time every day because we really wanted to decrease the amount of screen time that they had. And for me, I just think writing is something that's a little bit missing in the public schools these days, and there's a reason for it. Kids learn how to write with all kinds of different levels. So in a class in California, I used to have over 30. In Texas, I have about 22. But they've all got different writing levels, different language abilities. And so it's difficult to teach a whole group lesson and have your whole class become better writers. And so if you have small groups or you have individual writing conferences, you're really limited as to the amount of time as a teacher that you can spend working on writing. Imagine that I do a writing conference with an individual student for 5 minutes. Right? I'm taking that 5 minutes. Well, during that time that I, as a teacher, am with that one child, everybody else is doing something else and they're not getting that time with me. Well, if I think about an hour, right? I can get through 12 kids in an hour. And so it takes me 2 hours to get through giving just 5 minutes to each kid. If you think about that, that is not very much time with the teacher that kids are getting writing instruction. And I am finding that with my own children. So I'm like, okay, let's learn grammar. A lot of the schools have taken grammar out of their curriculum over the past few years. So I'm going to put it back in. So important for my kids to know what is a noun and what is a verb, so that when they're writing, I can say, hey, can you think of something to describe that noun? Let's lengthen our sentence a little bit, right? Like on Monday, there was a thunderstorm. What kind of thunderstorm was it? How could you describe that? Or learning prepositional phrases. We went to the park, right? All of those different things, learning those grammar skills are going to help my children put together longer and more complex sentences. And then let's take it back to reading, right? If they know how to write those sentences, they're also learning how to read better. So for me, that's just what we're doing. But your summer does not have to look like that. Your summer can just be read a book and go someplace and make an educational experience out of it. So those are the benefits of it. I want to share with you a little bit of my summer reading successes. A lot of times parents come to me at the end of the school year, and maybe the school year didn't end up quite the way they wanted it to. And so they're seeking out a reading tutor. And one of my students in particular, his mom came to me. He was exiting the second grade and he wasn't reading at all. and the school recommended special classes and summer school. And he also kind of experiences anxiety when there's things he doesn't know. He like it manifests itself. He gets a stomach ache. He gets real frustrated easily. And so his mom knew that summer school was not going to be the best thing for him. So I went over and I gave him a reading assessment, and it was so difficult for him that we didn't finish the reading assessment. I didn't want him to, to say, oh, this reading teacher, she makes me feel anxious. So I was like, hey, I can see that these are the things that that you struggle with. I can see that you have these strengths, and we're just going to work together this summer, and we're going to work on making those better. And so over the summer, that's when I had about 12 weeks to work with him. And in the fall, they retested him, and he exceeded all of the reading goals for his grade level. He went from like being so behind, they were looking at having him do summer school and special classes, to like he surpassed the expectations, the state expectations for his reading level. So much so that the teacher went back and was like, was there a mistake in our grading system? Like, I've never seen improvement like this. The mom shared that information with me, and I was so happy to hear that. And I still work with this kiddo. He's going into the 7th grade now. We work on math. And that is just one of my students who had such great success just working 1 hour a week over the summer. And, really that was when I first started tutoring, and there was a lot that I just went and grabbed and wanted to know about. I knew my son had dyslexia. And so as a parent, I was grabbing onto information. I went and got my certification as a reading interventionist, because I knew I wanted to help kids that struggled with reading and had dyslexia. I have another student, his name was Liam, and his mom was a homeschooler. And he was going into the 4th grade, and she noticed hearing him read at an event that he was just really not fluent. He was really struggling. And so again, end of the school year, she contacted me and was like, hey, can we help him? And then again, I worked with him for the summer, and he is reading above grade level now, loves reading. And it's just, we just had such a great time learning and reading together through this. And so those are the kinds of things that I really want for your kids. And I tell you, as a parent, you can do this. When I started teaching, I wasn't even a parent. I went to school, I was a music major, but I knew that I wanted to teach elementary school. And so I got my teaching certification. And, my first year teaching, I was learning as I was going, maybe just like you. Right. And you have the advantage that you've known your child since they were born. You were their first teacher. You taught them how to walk. You taught them how to speak. You can do this. You're their first teacher, and you are their best teacher because you know them best. So I love to come alongside parents and really just help them to do this work, because I know you can do it. So I love to see happy kids who know how to read now and can show their parents and just be so proud of what they've accomplished. All right, so reading challenges. This is not like, oh, reading is such a challenge. I have gone out and looked for some fun, just ways to make reading fun and ways to reward kids and make it kind of a game. So I'm going to share those with you now. One of them is finding summer bingo. Now I love Teachers Pay Teachers. Doesn't have to be Teachers Pay Teachers. It can be Parents Pay Teachers. And a lot of teachers, they have a freebie, so something to show their work. And that's available to anybody. There's no limit on what you can download for free. So what I did was I went to Teachers Pay Teachers and I said, summer reading bingo. And then you can set your filter as price from ascending. And so it showed me all the free stuff first. And this happened to be a reading bingo card that I downloaded, and I'm going to use with my own kids. Look how cute. What I love about this one is that your kids can color it in. It's set up like a coloring book. And so then you can see really easily, like, hey, when we finish a row, we're going to go swimming, or we're going to go to Dairy Queen and get your favorite treat. Now, all of these can be things that you're going to do anyway, right? Just make them a reward. So one thing I was thinking is, if you're going to go on a trip somewhere and your kids are going to want spending money, like their own money to buy a souvenir, could you say, hey, for every square you fill in with reading, I'll give you $1 to spend. weren't you going to buy them a souvenir anyway? Like, what a neat way to like teach them about money too. Oh, you filled in 4 boxes, so you get $4 to spend all on your own. And you can decide whatever amount you potentially want to give them, you can set this up. If you have a very young child and you want each of these to be a quarter, and then at the end they have $4, do that. If you want to make each one be $5, if you want to give them a different monetary value, right? If you think one is harder than the other, be like, okay, this one's worth $2. This one's worth $1. This one's worth a quarter. You could do whatever you want. You're the parent. You get to decide. I want to give credit where credit is due. And so this came from Teaching with Brianna Beverly, and she's on Instagram. I love her stuff. So I am one, like, I love teaching. I don't love graphic design and making things cute. And so to me, it's worth it to find other teachers who do and download this stuff. And I definitely do pay for it sometimes. So great resource. Here's another one. This was from Primary Playground, and hers was in color, and hers has all these little cute color things and some different ideas. Like, you could download them both, and then you could make your own bingo card with some things that you want your kids to do. So that's summer reading bingo, which I love. There are some companies out there that give free stuff for reading. Pizza Hut is one of them. So if you go to the bookitprogram.com, you can enroll as a parent or as a teacher, or if you're a homeschool parent, you can do that too. They've really opened it up. When it first started, it was just for teachers, and now it's really opened up. Parents can do this too. So you enroll, you sign up, your kids read, they fill out a reading log, and then you bring it into Pizza Hut and they get something free. I know back in the day, this was a long time ago that I did Book It, maybe 20 years ago when I started, and it was like a free personal pan pizza if they reached their goal. So I think that's really it's just really cool that Pizza Hut still does that. So check that out. Your library also has some neat free reading programs. Every library I've been to has a reading log that you can take home and have your kids fill in. Nothing But Cakes has one as well. I know I've got a virtual background, but I printed this out. Let's see, just like this. I got that on the next slide. So what they have is, when your students read for 400 minutes or more, visit your local Nothing But Cake store, and they'll give you a free buntlet, which is kind of fun, for your kid to know, like, I earned this, I did something. And so this is what the reading log looks like. This is what the top looks like. So you just fill in, where your kiddo goes to school. It doesn't have to be teacher led. You can go print this out, and then you can bring it into your local Nothing But Cake store, and they will honor it. So, you just put the date, the name of the book, how many minutes they read. Now 400 minutes is not a lot. If you divide that by 10, that's 40 minutes, maybe 40 minutes a week. And so after 10 weeks, they've done it, they get the reward. Now, again, you're the parent, so you get to decide what is a challenge for your kid, right? Do they already read a lot? Could you do that 400 minutes in a month and then go grab the buntlet then? Could you, set a different goal for your child? Maybe they weren't reading at all, and so maybe 10 minutes a day is a real feat for them. I'm sure that all of these places, they're not going to be like, oh, you don't get the buntlet because you didn't read 400 minutes. You're the parent. You get to decide what's a challenge for your kids. So this is what the bottom of that shows. It's from Nothing But Cakes. Once you've read 40 minutes in the month indicated above, and it doesn't have to be in 1 month, return your tracker to your teacher or to the Nothing But Cake store and receive your free buntlet. That's it. So I thought those were really cool. Reading recommendations. Now, here are some books that I absolutely love, that I have shared with kids over the years. And so I'm going to share those with you now. Charlotte's Web, great book. Usually it used to be a 3rd grade core novel when I taught in Tustin, and we read that together. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong if you have a child who's, 1st grade, 2nd grade, and you want to read this story and then you want to watch the movie together. I think that it can be great to front load your kiddo. And one thing that I always say as a teacher is that research has shown, Marzano is an educational kind of guru, brain scientist. He says that it takes 6 times of being exposed to something before you really own it and learn it. And we've done this study with vocabulary, where kids have to have 6 different exposures to the vocabulary word. It does not help when they just look up the word and, write down the definition and then boom, they know it. That doesn't work that way. So what I say when my kids are like, oh, we read that last year, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so great. Because research has shown that a child needs to be exposed to something 6 times before they really make it their own. And so this is time number 2. You've got 5 more times to go with reading this book to really own it and learn everything that you can possibly learn from it. Now, I know as a teacher, I've read books way more than 6 times over the years, and I still get a lot out of them. So, and front loading is so good. Again, like if they're a struggling reader, if they've already read it, they already know how the story goes, they're going to understand it even better the second time when they're reading it in class. Right? They're going to already know the vocabulary. They're going to know those tricky words, and it's just going to be easier for them to have a second go around about with it. So don't be afraid. Oh, if we read this book, they might read it later in school, and they might not even read it later in school. So no big deal. So I love Charlotte's Web for first, second, or third grade. The Magic Tree House is a perfect second grade book. In the Fountas and Pinnell, the reading A to Z levels, it's a level K, which means it's right smack in the middle of second grade reading level. What I love about the second grade reading is that a child kind of goes into second grade and they're still reading like The Cat Sat on the Mat. They're reading Frog and Toad, which is kind of like beginning chapter books, to once you get through level K, they're readers. They're exploding. And so some of my teacher friends and I, we call those the magic books, because if you pick up Magic Tree House, by the end of the series, you are an independent reader. And that's just so magical. The other thing I love about Magic Tree House books is that both characters, there's a boy and a girl, they're brother and sister. And so really boys and girls enjoy this series. So if you've got some kids about that age and maybe you have a boy and a girl and you're not sure what book both the genders are going to enjoy, Magic Tree House. The other thing I love about Magic Tree House is that it's historical fiction. And I've heard that they have a team of historians who actually go and fact check all of their historical information. So, your kids are reading a fun story, a fun mystery, but then they're also learning about history that's going to help them in, later years. I know the early years, kids study dinosaurs, but, in 6th grade, they study Greek mythology and like the ancient world. And then 7th grade, it's more medieval times. 8th grade is US history. If you can front load them and they're familiar with those periods of history, think about how that content reading is going to go for them later. They're already going to have that background knowledge, and those new words that maybe they wouldn't have heard about if they didn't read Magic Tree House, they're going to know, they're going to be able to read them. So you're kind of doing some sneaky, like, getting them ready for 6th grade without overloading them with like something too, advanced. Another book that I love, there's 2 of them. There may be more now, but there's The Wild Robot and then The Wild Robot Escapes. Those are like 4th, 5th grade level. My student that I shared with you who wasn't reading at all in 2nd grade, we read that together either last summer or a couple summers ago and just loved it. And we did that thing where like he read a page, I read a page, and we went back and forth and just really enjoyed. It's a futuristic book about a time when robots do all the work. And it was a really enjoyable series. I liked it too. Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief is one for like 5th or 6th grade. Again, it's very history based. So in 6th grade, kids learn about Greek history and Greek mythology. And so Percy Jackson and his friends are the children. They're called half-bloods. And I love it. I really got into it. My daughter went to school to be a musical theater, that she's got her BFA in musical theater, and her show was The Lightning Thief. If you can find somebody doing that show, do. It is adorable. The music is great. You can find somebody who does, who stages it really well. It's just such a great story. And it really weaves in a lot of the books. If you're familiar with the books, it's super fun. That's where I got turned on to this series. I knew that my kids were reading the Percy Jackson series. I didn't know anything about it. it, except that it was based on Greek mythology. And I really got hooked. So I got the soundtrack for the musical. I got the books. My daughter's really loving it. She's watching The Lightning Thief on Disney Plus, and it's just really a neat series. So I highly recommend that. And then my favorite fifth grade book, Bridge to Terabithia. I was introduced to this book again through a musical, music major here. When I was first teaching, my second teaching job, we took our kids on a field trip to a youth theater company who performed. I think they wrote the musical, because there is no musical to Bridge to Terabithia, but you know, they put it together as a play, and they put together songs from the 1960s, and they put in lyrics about Bridge to Terabithia. So I remember that Joni Mitchell song about clouds, and up and down, and na na na. You know, that song, they did it all about Bridge to Terabithia. So cute. I absolutely loved it. Fell in love with the story. And I've taught this book a lot of years in my fifth grade class. And then they came out with the movie with the actor who was in the Hunger Games series when he was a little kid. Great movie. So I'm always a fan of reading a book together and then watching the movie and then having a discussion. Like, imagine if you've read that book too, you can sit down with them and watch the movie and be like, oh, what was different between the movie and the book? Tiger Rising was one that I read with kids, loved it. That's about fifth, sixth grade level too. Always be careful when you're having, you know, even with my recommendations, you know, everybody has different values as parents. And when I'm recommending these books, I'm recommending them as a teacher to read with my students, as a parent to read with my children. And so we talk about some of the more difficult themes, some of the sad themes. And so just be careful, do a little bit of pre-reading, go on some websites, look up the values. One of the things that I love about Bridge to Terabithia that is such a great thing to talk about with your children is there's Leslie's family, and there's, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the boy. The boy, the main boy, his family, you know, they both have different values. The whole town has different values. The teacher, the music teacher, who's kind of the heroine of the story, you know, everybody has different values, different things that they love. And then they talk together and they really realize that they can be friends and that they have so much in common. And I just love that. I mean, that just fits with my value of, you know, love each other and let's find what we have in common and let's get along and let's be kind to people. So I love that theme that's in that book. And the relationship, Jess is the main character. So, you know, Leslie and Jess, they become friends. And you know, how like boys and girls can be friends and just have a close friendship. Ah, I love that book so much. So I have other books. I'm actually going to include, put them in the comment section. When my kids were in first grade, I homeschooled them, and I used a curriculum that was very literature based. If you're familiar with Sunlight and Bookshark, I was able to use Bookshark with our charter school in California. And what they came with this huge box of books. Some of them were beginning books for my kids to start to read, like, you know, Cat Sat on the Mat kind of books. But then there were books that I read aloud to my kids. We learned all about science through the Usborne Children's Encyclopedia I read to them. That's a great book for nonfiction. It has little QR codes, and so you can kind of sneak some screen time in there. I love the QR codes because they found like just really random videos that are out there about specific subjects like space and animals and the forest. I loved it so much. And then other just stories that I read aloud to my kids. So we read The Boxcar Children together when my kids were in first grade. We loved that. I read to them My Father's Dragon. So those are books that are more advanced, like reading wise, for a child to read independently, but the theme and the content was perfect for a 6-year-old, so 5-6-year-old. We read one about a lighthouse that was really neat. It was an old book. I love the classics. There was the 100 Dresses, which was a really neat story. Just so many neat stories to read to your kids when they're that age. You know, and then you can grab the Dr. Seuss Hop on Pop, you know, phonics readers. to read together. If you've got a little like that, and just, cuddle up together. And again, even with those little phonics readers, this is a bus, this is a school, you can read the book out loud to them, and then they can read it out loud to you. And they really are reading, and they really are getting a concept that, like, how does print work? The words go across the page a certain way. We go front to back. In those younger books, there's a picture that's going to give support, comprehension support, to help you understand what's going on. All those are such valuable reading skills that go. I truly believe that the science of reading is also an art, and there are so many things that come together to make a reader. And you just really can't go wrong if you're modeling that excitement for books, and like, oh my gosh, I never read this book as a kid. I love this book. Where has this book been all my life? I just think it can be really exciting. Some of my favorite books are children's books, even just for me. I absolutely love them. So those are my main points. If this was helpful to you, I would love for you to let me know, and I will, produce more content that's like it. Let me know below. Give me a comment. Tell me what you liked about it, or maybe what your takeaway, what your aha was. And then the coffee cup again is like, I would love for this to become a conversation. If you are standing in the parking lot with other parents and you hear somebody like, oh, my child was just, struggling, but we really don't want to do anything this summer, let them know, hey, I saw this video by, this crazy teacher lady who's a mom, and she gave us some pretty cool ideas. You might want to check it out. So I would love that. Just, help me reach my goal of, reaching, I don't know, 1 million children. I want to teach 1 million children how to read, in whatever way possible. So help me reach that goal. I would love, 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 if more kids knew how to read and just had those options available for them. One of the values that my mother taught me was to shoot for the moon, right? Shoot for the moon, and even if you miss, you'll land among the stars. And so I know when I was in high school, I already knew where I was going to go to college. I decided in second grade. That's another story. But I knew I wanted to go to Azusa Pacific University, which was a private college close to my house. And my mom really didn't want me to close off my options. And so for high school, she said, you have to take the classes that will enable you to get into a University of California. Like that's the kind of the gold standard in California. Yes, there's Ivy League, but that's our state system. And so she went to UC Berkeley, and she wanted me to be able to go to that school if I wanted to. Right. And so I took the courses that I need to. At that time, it was called the A to F requirements. Later, it became A to G because they added the arts in, which are wonderful. And so I had to take foreign language, math, science, all the classes. And even though I didn't end up going to a UC, and I didn't need to take all of those years of, core rigorous curriculum, my mom wanted me to have that option. And I'm so glad that she did. I have spent my adult life learning and making sure that I have options available to me. If there's a certification, I'm going to go get it, because I don't want to be 5 years from now not able to do something that I want to do that I could have done if 5 years ago I just got that certification or just took that class. And so that's one of my goals for children, is that they have those opportunities, those options available. And so that when they graduate from high school, when they get to high school, those opportunities are open and available to them no matter what. And that all goes into a child being happy forever. I just recently asked parents, what are your goals? What's your dream for your kids? Right? Because I just want to know. And I know for me, it's like when they're 40, I want them to be happy. And if if they can't get a job that they really want to do, they're not going to be happy. Right. And so education is one of those keys to happiness. I truly believe. I've been in education for 31 years now, I think 32 years. I got my credential in 92. So 32 years. And I just believe that it is one of the keys to happiness. So that's my goal. If you could help me reach that goal. Again, if you'd like a copy of my show notes today, or if I touched on something, if I just started to talk about it, but I'm like, no, I'm here to talk about how to make summer reading fun. Let me know. I'd love to start a conversation with you and share with you any information that I have. That's one of the things I love to do, is to help parents with this. And I will see you next time. Once again, I'm Sharon Frazier-Verpooten, and I help elementary students to raise their learning levels a full year with just 12 hours of instruction. And I will see you on my next video. Bye.